and we have to make these weapons obsolete.
Ludlam, your time has expired. Senator Back.
Acting Deputy President, I have a story to tell you in the chamber today, and it's about a family called Australia. And the members of that family are the people of the states and territories of Australia throughout this landmass. And the glue that should be holding that family together, called the Australian Federation, and I'm here to tell you, Madam Acting Deputy President, that it is flawed and that it is in danger of fracturing. And I speak, of course, of the goods and services tax distribution to each of the states and territories of this nation, and we have now achieved a situation, I'm sure never intended by the Parliament or the Prime Minister or the Treasurer of the time, in which the relativity based on population of the return of GST to each of the states and territories is at a ludicrous level of imbalance. Would be laughable if it wasn't so serious. Let me tell you. On the basis of per capita return for GST on the basis of population, Madam Acting Deputy President, Territorians are receiving 530 cents per dollar that they would get on population basis, and that's $13,200 for each person. Tasmanians, you'd be interested on the other side, $4,444 per capita, 178 cents per dollar invested. South Australians a bit less, $39.50 per head at 140 cents. Queenslanders, and it's going down, $2,900, getting $1.20. The ACT here, through you to Senator Seselja, $2,890, and it's 115 cents. The Victorians and the New South Welshmen are faring a bit worse at $2,278.65, just under the 1 to 1.9. And that contrast of $13,205 for Territorians, per capita Western Australians, Madam Acting Deputy President, is $760, a mere 6% of the per capita share of Territorians, and it is 30 cents in the dollar. 30 cents in the dollar. It can't be sustained. It can't be handled into the future, and I'm here to tell you the impact it is having on my home state of Western Australia. I'm also here to tell you, incidentally, that Western Australian senators and members are sick to death of it. I'm very pleased that my colleague Senator Dean Smith is here, because he remains and has been a champion trying to put this point before the Parliament. In addition to the inequity, Madam Acting Deputy President, that Western Australians face, I should point out to you, although it's not central to the argument, that Western Australian contributions to company taxes in this nation are disproportionately high. The two largest taxpayers in the nation are Rio Tinto and BHP Billiton. Income taxes per capita contribute more, and we are fortunate in the sense that the reliance on welfare on a per capita basis is less. But what's the impact of this in 2016-17, Madam Acting Deputy President? It couldn't be more starkly outlined than to look at either the budget surplus or deficit of each of the states of Australia. And it is obvious why, in many cases, the surplus that I'm about to describe to you is underwritten by borrowed money from Western Australians trying to pay their GST share when we are receiving 30 cents. Tasmania, my colleagues again on the other side will be interested to know that the prediction this year from the Treasurer was a $77 million surplus. South Australia, $254 million surplus. Queensland, $867 million surplus. Victoria, just under $3 billion surplus. New South Wales, 3.7, and it contrasts with a deficit in 2016 in WA of $3.9 billion. You might say, well, that's poor economic management. When I say to you that the share that Western Australians have forsaken to assist with the surpluses I have just mentioned is $4.7 billion, $4.7 billion, against what is actually a deficit of 3.9, it more than wipes out the budget deficit and also would have put Western Australia into surplus. Madam Acting Deputy President, how did this come about? Before expanding on that, I just want to make one point if I can, because so often it is put to us in Western Australia, well, you were a recipient state for so many years, now you're just redressing the balance. Let me make the point very, very carefully to you, and to those who might be listening that yes, Western Australia was a recipient state for many years. Why was it? Simply not because of a subsidy or a handout that we are seeing at the moment, but it was compensation, Madam Acting Deputy President, of the fact that at that time there were very high tariffs on manufacturing, particularly in your home state of New South Wales and Victoria, and the compensation to WA and to some extent to South Australia also was compensation for the fact that our states were not manufacturing states, therefore were not receiving high tariff protection, and therefore the recipient status was as a result largely of compensation for that fact. To where do we go to try and resolve these issues? Well, we have the Commonwealth Grants Commission, and it was in fact in a Senate inquiry headed by then Senator Trude that I remember participating, and I think Senator Claire Moore may have been the Deputy Chair. We made the point at that time that of the formula used by the Commonwealth Grants Commission, Madam Acting Deputy President, there is not a clause in the formula that speaks of the capacity of a state or territory to earn revenue and achieve it, or to contain expenditure and insure it. So therefore, where is the incentive? Where is the incentive for a state or territory to actually achieve parity, or as close as they can to it? Having been in Tasmania in business and having resided, I accept the fact that it is unlikely, for example, that Tasmania is going to achieve that status. But there is nothing to stop Tasmania actively trying to maximise its revenue, and I congratulate the Hodgman government for their efforts in so doing, and indeed even in achieving their budget surplus. But as I look back at the industries with which I was closely associated in the 1990s up to 2000 in Tasmania, most of them now are either not there or they're severely depressed. The forestry industry, for example. The other ones that were of tremendous, I thought, potential value and benefit were industries like potentially oil and gas. It's a very, very rich state, its land and its waters. But the decision of the time was to not explore those options. Wood chips, obviously, were not acceptable to the Tasmanian government. Hydro Tasmania was a very, very proud organisation until the government of the day decided to fleece it, and we see where it is today. It's of immense annoyance to me that only in the last few hours have I learnt that in the Northern Territory, with the new government, they have decided to put a moratorium on LNG exploration and extraction, as indeed yesterday have the Victorian government. So is that another circumstance, Madam Acting Deputy President, in which the rest of Australia now is going to put its hand in its pocket even deeper? A circumstance in the Northern Territory. We learn that apparently they need their $13,000 per head because of the high Aboriginal community in the Territory. Haven't we got a high Aboriginal community in Western Australia? Have we not had immense costs associated with developing and maintaining the north of Australia, largely to provide royalties income back to the Commonwealth of Australia? Only the other night did Senator Reynolds and I have the privilege of attending Rio Tinto's 50th anniversary of the export of their first ever shipment of iron ore in August of 1966. And let me tell you a little bit about the excellence of that company. At a time when the Pilbara would have had nothing other than bush tracks, Madam Acting Deputy President, in the space of 18 months, and remember we can't get legislation through this place in 3 years, in the space of 18 months in virgin bush, they built the towns of Tom Price and Panawanika, they built the mines, they built the railroad to the coast, they built the port, and in 18 months they exported the first ever tonnage. That's the sort of vision that we see out of Western Australia. But until the Grants Commission process is changed, until states and territories have as a strong incentive to actually earn revenue and to contain expenditure, we won't see a change. Yes, Western Australia's share will go up. No state should ever go down to 30 cents in the dollar. The impact it's had not just on our state and our citizens, but nationally, has been and will continue to be catastrophic. The Prime Minister announced the other night that as our share goes up, there should be an inclining floor, so that we get to the stage that no